Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's cure for seeing, get underway. By 2025, estimates are that artificial intelligence, AI, will power 95% of customer interactions.
Despite advancing technology, the disruptive force happening in business today is relationship building.
The humanizing touch is the most important of a great customer experience in today's techy economy.
But less than 5% of businesses have any specific plan for developing and strengthening relationships with clients and customers.
The new paradigm starts with providing resources to strengthen customer service across your entire business.
We're joined today by John DiJulius, an authority on customer experience and author of The Relationship Economy, Building Stronger Customer Connections in the Digital Age.
So, John DiJulius, welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our listeners.
Hello, everyone. My pleasure to be here.
Hey, let's see a copy of that. Yeah, let's see a copy of that book cover.
Beautiful.
All right. And you're connecting in from beautiful Cleveland today.
Beautiful, snowy Cleveland.
So much beautiful.
Yeah, we love it in the upper Midwest. We love our snow.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't a very enthusiastic yeah.
I don't mind it. You know, fortunately, I get to travel, but I like the four seasons.
Yeah,
very much so too. Well, building better customer connections starts with understanding the relationship economy. John, what do you mean by that?
Well, the relationship economy is where the primary currency is the emotional connections made with your customers, employees, and vendors. That helps your brand become the brand people can't live without, and ultimately makes price irrelevant.
So I like, I think your key word there, correct me if I'm wrong, is emotion. That emotion helps to drive that connection.
Yeah, no one's loyal to an app. No one's loyal to a website or a link. And the enemy certainly is not technology. I love technology. I have every gadget you can imagine, but using technology to eliminate the human experience is. And, you know, we are loyal to people, human beings. And so the seismic shift happening today is while technology is bringing us with unprecedented advances in convenience, it's coming at a significant cost. And that cost is the human interaction, human relationships. That's so vital to customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, and just overall happiness.
I like that quote you just gave. I think sums it all up. Loyalty is not to an app.
Right.
So, you know, I kind of setting the stage for this. If you're a smaller business, say a home-based business, I think it's easier maybe to make that connection, that emotional connection, because your interaction is going to be more personal to start with.
Well, you know, that's the thing. You know, I'm a mom and pop. I have 3 small businesses. My first business is a hair salon that we started 27 years ago, and there was just me and my wife when we started. Today, we have multiple locations, over 150 employees. But the key is you have to know where your advantage is. And the smaller the business, you know, if you're not using and creating relationships, well, then the big boxes are going to eat you for lunch.
But John, you emphasize that technology can damage customer connections. How has the digital disruption changed business, particularly small business?
Well, as you guys pointed out in the intro, by the year 2025, there's going to be more machines in the workforce than human beings. And, you know, so there's a company, a wireless company in Canada that is now punishing their customers if they don't use their self-service kiosks or the website attendant. If you call in for support or need to talk to someone about your bill, they charge your account $10. And so, you know, just getting away from the human relationship, the human connection, you know, transactions don't make us loyal.
Yeah, I mean, the loyalty is going to be to a person, and the brand of that person, you know, builds in that customer's mind.
100% right. You know, it's easy to fire a company, but, you know, to fire Lynn or to fire, you know, anyone that you've built a relationship with is a totally different concept.
Well, John, can you explain the touchscreen age and how this negatively impacts customer relations?
Yeah, we're all living it. You know, the touchscreen age is not generational specific. And I know like mine and I'm going to, go on a limb and say Richard's generation, we love to, same generation, we love to beat up on millennials. And, millennials, for one, are the generation that we raise. So we're picking on ourselves. The touchscreen generation is across all generations. We have grandparents on social media and we have 6-year-olds on devices. And as a result, the people skills are at a huge decline, which is having a ripple effect in so many areas, and a lack of relationships, doctors have said, have the same side effects as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's crazy, not to mention digital dementia. Doctors have taken brain scans of people who overuse digital devices, and their brain scans are similar to patients who've sustained brain injuries.
So what you're saying, they could actually show some physical changes almost with this touch screen age.
Yeah, and every generation's reporting the loneliest they've ever been.
John, what with that in mind, what do businesses need to do to differently to compete in this relationship economy and build better customer connections in this touchscreen age?
Well, make no mistake about it, the lack of social skills our society has is the problem of business leaders to solve. And we can't skip any generation, right? Next generation, and no fault of their own. The current and existing generations are relationship disadvantaged. And so businesses need to figure out how to marry the digital with the human interaction. And like I said, I love technology, but you can't use it to eliminate. You have to use it to do basic functions, freeing up your employees to focus on what's most important.
I think maybe a way of looking at this is the efficiency that digital gives you, enables you to be able to run these small businesses, that things you couldn't do 30 years before, like publish a magazine, we couldn't do it. But the drawback to that is this touchscreen age, where you're losing the connection, that efficiency. The drawback is you're unless you think about it and plan something, you're losing that ability to create a human emotional connection with that customer.
And that's it. We're all starving. The pendulum has swung so far over to high tech, low touch or no touch, that as consumers, each of us are dying to be a human being with a face, a family, whatever that may be, and the companies that really drive that. So, for your audience, even like this, Zoom. So in my businesses, my employees, myself, aren't allowed to have conference calls. We have to have Zoom or Skype calls. Exactly this. Now I see you. You guys look really nice. You smile. It's easier to create.
I had to put all my makeup on before we started, so
Well, I put my best cologne on. So, but you're collecting intelligence, right? A lot of times when you see someone's office, you could see family, vacation. But here's the real reason why I want to be on Zoom. If I'm on a conference call, not on video, I'll start multitasking, right? I'll pick up my phone. My son's blowing up my phone, asking me for something. He's at, and then meanwhile, you tell me you have to attend your grandmother's, funeral this weekend. And I'll be like, okay, good. That's great. And so, Zoom, something like this keeps us on stage.
And they say something like, 80% of communication is visual. I mean, so you pick up some of that through Zoom, I guess.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative. I think, making eye contact there's nothing will ever replace that.
Mm-mm. Well, John, can you share with us what FORD stands for?
Yeah. So, to build a relationship, we are all genetically coded to be preoccupied. It's my flight that got delayed. It's my client that's upset with us. It's my son that may have gotten in trouble. And so when you talk to another person, you have to remember two things. One, everyone has an invisible sign above their head that says, make me feel important. And the greatest gift we can give anyone is the gift of our attention. So how do we do that? How do we break that urge to tell you about my day, about, what's going on? So what we teach ourselves, our clients, even my 3 boys, is anytime you have a conversation with someone, be it for 3 minutes or 30 minutes, you have to focus on their FORD, F-O-R-D. family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Family, is she married? Does she have kids? How old are the kids? Occupation, what's his title? How long's he been doing it? Recreation is a lot of people's hottest things. What do they like to do with their free time? Are they runners? Do they do hot yoga? Do they, coach Little League? And then dreams. What's on their bucket list? What's their encore career? And what's their vacation dream destination?
So to bring this down to the customer, the interaction, when you go into a discussion, particularly with somebody new, have FORD in the back of your mind to look for ways to draw that in and enter those points into the conversation with them. And I guess that'll subconsciously build a better connection with that person you're dealing with. Absolutely.
If I know 2 or more things a year forward, every time we talk, I'm gonna bring that up. I'm gonna ask you how your little one's doing. I'm gonna ask you, how your training for your marathon's going, and you got to use that. I have a desk pad that reminds me, to listen. You don't even have to ask. A lot of times people overshare, and we document it in our CRM system.
Also, a good point there. It's not just when you initially deal with somebody, that becomes something you can pick up the conversation with them again if you've made note of those FORD points, and it's a good way to keep this conversation going in the future.
Absolutely. Following up, like I said, if you were telling me you're running your first marathon at in Minneapolis, that's not going to be until like July.
You'd be surprised. They jump into ice lakes up here, so in January.
But I mean, if you're a client or whatever, acquaintance, we're going to follow up and ask you how that race was, or wish you luck, or find a picture of you online, at the race and send it to you.
Everybody wants to be validated. Well, John, I enjoyed your list, conversation nevers and always list. Can you share, some customer building insights with these lists?
Yeah, doing research on this was extremely painful because of how many things I did wrong. So some conversation nevers, right? Never multitask, never ask a question because you're dying to answer it, right? Like, so how was your weekend? Good. Let me tell you what I did, right? And never finish the other person's sentence. There's a good study that said the average doctor interrupts their patient within 18 seconds, by 18 seconds. And, and it's said because he or she has heard everything. You come in and to my office, I'm the doctor. You tell me your knee's swelling because you've been running a lot. And, I could just stop you there. I know what the problem is, inflammation. Here's what you need. And, I started thinking about that. I guarantee I do that. I guarantee everyone that's an expert in their field has heard these questions before, and you want to get to the solution, but it's not always good. Never steal their thunder. That's a hard one because that's something that I always thought I was doing in a good way to show, comparison. So, you have an employee and she was off last week and you ask her how her vacation was. And she said, oh, she took, her and her husband took their 5-year-old to Disney. And you're like, oh, great. I own property in Disney. I have a house in Disney. Mm-hmm. Well, you just stole her thunder, right? What can she possibly now tell someone that has, timeshare in Disney? So, you think you're doing it to be, showing a connection, but you got just keep quiet. Don't grandstand and let them,
It sounds like if you stay in the present moment and focus on listening, you won't do those lists. You'll be less inclined to step in and steal the thunder.
So my favorite always, remove distractions, right? So someone comes to the office, an employee says, can I talk to you? Not only what I try to do is, obviously, if I have my phone out, I'll put it away. But sometimes I'll actually literally take my phone out of my jacket, which looks counterintuitive, and I'll say, hold on, Richard. And I'm turning it off just to show you there's nothing more important right now than having that conversation with you. Listening with your eyes, right? Removing any distraction, being an active listener. If you don't ask 2 to 3 follow-up questions, odds are you weren't listening. So it's always good to have a 4-to-1 ratio of questions asked versus answered. So just trying to, remember those things.
So maybe the home business owner who can only interact with somebody on the phone, focus on listening, but then also focus on asking follow-up questions right after you had that discussion with them to show that you've been an active listener.
Yeah, and one really good thing I found out was there's a myth to being a good listener is being a sponge. And they say that's not being a good listener. So a sponge, if you think about it, is just someone who's absorbing, not saying a word. Every so often I say,
Yeah.
They say that's not being a good listener.
Uh-huh.
Being a good listener is a trampoline and who takes your what you're saying and amplifies the energy by asking more to clarify that. Tell me more. How did you come up with that? What made you do that? And that really heightens the energy of the person talking.
Because it shows that you are really listening to what they're saying if you can ask some critical thinking questions about what they just told you.
Absolutely. Yep.
John, you use some great metaphors. For example, are you in your client's foxhole? What do you mean by that?
So I feel that everyone metaphorically has a personal and a professional foxhole. So if we were going to be under attack tonight, I got my personal foxhole that I'm going to bring my significant other, and depending on the day, 2, maybe all 3 of my boys, right? The professional foxhole is you can only fit 3 vendors, 3 partners, okay? And so being on the other side, that CEO could only fit 3 of his partners. Do I have a seat in his foxhole? Can he fathom life without me? And so how do you become a partner, a CEO, a business can't live without, right? And that's loving what you do and making it so obvious. That's that your client never meets anyone smarter at what you do than you do. And one of my favorite is being a resource broker. And what a resource broker is, I have a client from Columbus that told me that he hopes he dies before his banker dies. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't even think I'd go to my banker's funeral, and this is what he said. He said, I can't fathom life without him. He says, he's like my most important advisor, to the point that he's, in his words, he said, if he was going to repaint his walls a different color at his corporate office, he would call his bankers first. Now, he said he's pretty sure his banker has no clue to what color. He's not an interior designer, but he knows his banker will know someone that is. And I was like, wow, that's how I want to be thought of, as a resource broker, that I'm the first person my clients call for anything.
So like when a home business owner, whatever, is building relationships with customers, you want to drive that to the point they're calling you and contacting you outside of what you have a specific business relationship about. And that, I guess what you're saying, you actually become a resource for the people you interact with.
We should know going into 2020, we should know the 3 goals of all our clients, irrelevant to what we serve, right? Maybe yours is customer service. I'm going to send you a great customer service book. Someone else, or again, running marathon. If that, you're running your first marathon, I'm going to send you a link to how to train for your first. Now you may have that, but how many people are taking that much of a vested interest in you? If you're going to Maui, I'm going to send you the top 4 restaurants or things that you have to see while you're in Maui.
Oh, so yeah, we got to really bring that. That's a really good point. You can build that reputation as a resource by providing information. And the good thing about it is, right at your fingertips, if you know how to be a Dr. Google, you can find information to send to them. Whereas, could have been before an afternoon doing research. Now, in a matter of seconds, you can find out good information and provide it to them.
And you just send a couple links. Hey, here's a follow-up. You asked me for a proposal. You asked me for this. I give you my expertise, but I also said, hey, Richard. And also I was thinking, here's the 3 greatest, attractions you have to go to while you're there. That's going to blow your mind.
Mm-hmm. Now, I kind of think I've had a few people that have done that before I'm interacting with, and I still remember getting that information. So yeah, that's a good point to drive home. But John, you stress that better relations can make price points irrelevant. That's something that is critical for home business owners. How can you do pricing right like that to the point that the actual price is not the most relevant thing in your customer's mind?
Well, that's what we do. We help make price irrelevant, and you can make price irrelevant. That doesn't mean you can double your prices or even raise them 25% and not lose existing or potential customers. What making price irrelevant does mean is based on the experience you consistently deliver, your customers have no idea what your competition charges. So we're all price sensitive. And if you've been like me, I've made the mistake of driving 3 extra miles to save 50 cents on something, not realizing I just lost in that exchange. But we all have a few vendors, partners, whatever we want to call them, that you know, and so mine is this guy named Brian Hooper. We call him Hoop. And he's been my handyman at home and my businesses for nearly 30 years. He doesn't work for me, but he does everything from changing light bulbs to knocking down walls to finishing basements. And whenever someone says they you know, if I hear someone say that, you know, that they need something repaired, I say, you got to use Hoop. And they're like, what's a Hoop? And then I go in and tell them how great he is. He's the greatest guy ever. And they say, well, how much does he charge? Because my handyman charges $105 an hour. And that's where I'm embarrassed. I don't know. And, you know, I could go find out, but I don't care. He might be 150. He might be 95. Don't care. Because I know over the long run, the trust, the convenience, the way he takes care of me, peace of mind, he saves me money. And that's where I want to live, where people don't even know what I charge. That's where we all need to live.
Maybe there's some kind of price barriers initially, just in the research and all, but once the relationship is established, you know, the pricing does become irrelevant. Something else I was thinking about when you mentioned that, maybe people look at, like, is there a price that's too high? You know, it's maybe some boundaries people set. And as long as you're within that boundary, then the pricing becomes irrelevant, and it's more about the relationship that you deliver.
Yeah, you know, I loved my favorite quote to all this is, discounting is the tax you pay for being average.
Discounting is the price you pay for being average?
Is the
tax. Discounting is the tax you pay. I like that. Can I trademark that from you? You had some great quotes.
Well,
Use
John,
it anytime.
Yeah. Well, John, you say that your 2 favorite words are give more. What do the 2 words give more mean to you specifically?
I wish I could get those 2 words tattooed on my forehead if it wouldn't look so silly. You know, if you want to build long-term sustainable relationships with anyone, personally or professionally, we got to focus on giving more. And in today's world, we live in a very cynical society, right? The agreement says, our contract, our arrangement says that you have to do A, B, and C, and I'm supposed to provide you with X, Y, and Z. Well, too often, too many of us wait and make sure the other person does what they say before we provide what we're going to. What I try to teach myself, my kids, my business is do X, Y, and Z first and throw in W, even though W wasn't expected and W wasn't promised. Give them more. Don't wait. Don't keep score and don't have a good memory. Meaning, don't remember 3 years ago when someone didn't do what they did. Don't let that ruin it. And that means that if you borrow someone's pickup truck to move furniture, you give them that truck back with more gas and cleaner than how they gave it to you.
Well, I mean, a good point on that is it may take a little extra effort to do that give more, but in the long run, you'll feel better about it. But it takes a lot more effort to get new clients than it does to keep existing ones. Anything you can do to build those relationships, they'll pay off in the long term.
And that also, when people are coming to you because of a referral, right? Lynn told me, Richard, you're amazing. I got to use you. I'm not, my lead isn't how much you charge. Well, how much you charge?
You come well recommended.
Right. You're in demand, making price irrelevant. But if you're living off, you know, Google searches and, you know, ads on Facebook and all those, then, you know, you're going to have to get in the price wars.
Now, that's a really good point. I know when anybody's ever been referred to me, I never ask them about price. It's just, hey, you know, I'm doing business with so-and-so, and, you know, we take it from there. Well, John DiJulius, this has been a great discussion on building customer relations in a digital age. Do you have any final points you would like to share?
No, you hit them all. Thank you. It was such an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. John DiJulius, thank you for being such a wonderful guest on our show today.
Thank you.
To learn more about John DiJulius and his book, The Relationship Economy, visit thedijuliusgroup.com, or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising. Subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
Make it a great home-based biz day.